What if combination feeding is not really your choice but medical advice? How can you protect your breastfeeding relationship? Then your healthcare provider should develop a clear feeding plan with you. Some of the reasons why your healthcare provider may suggest supplementation are slow or no weight gain, low milk supply, dehydration, infant medical conditions, or maternal medical conditions. Ideally, supplementation and combination feeding will remain a temporary feeding method for you until any breastfeeding challenges have been resolved. Perhaps your baby has been struggling to latch, or you've been struggling with sore nipples, and that in turn has affected your milk supply. So that's why it's important also to have a breastfeeding assessment of a full breastfeed by someone knowledgeable in breastfeeding. It is never as simple as just giving a bottle of formula, especially when you want to protect your milk supply and breastfeeding relationship. Ask the following questions. What type of supplementation should I be giving? My own expressed breast milk, and will this be enough? Is there donor milk available from a milk bank? The WHO, the World Health Organization, recommends donor human milk for babies where the mother's milk is not available. However, not all human milk banks have the capacity to supply healthy babies and keep the donor milk reserved for premature or very sick babies. So if there is no donor human milk available from a milk bank, are there other sources that provide donor human milk, and what's their screening process? What would be the risks and what would be the benefits? Should I be giving formula? And what type of formula? If so, does my baby perhaps need prescription formula because of a medical condition? The next question you want to ask is whether you should start expressing your own breast milk if you're not already doing so. And if you need to start expressing your milk, then should that be by hand or by pump? And if pumping is recommended, what type of pump should you be using, and should you single or double pump? How often should you express your milk? Should you express after every feed, or is power pumping recommended, so that you have a clear plan for feeding and expressing? Then you want to ask whether there are certain supplementation methods that may interfere less with breastfeeding. For instance, if your baby is latching well and suckling well at the breast, but for some reason your milk production remains low, you could ask if someone can show you the use of a supplemental nursing system. A supplemental nursing system is a device through which you can supplement your baby at the breast during breastfeeding. It's usually a feeding tube that is connected to a container with milk or a bottle with milk, and your baby can receive the supplement at the breast, continuing to perfect or to practice breastfeeding, and also continuing to stimulate the breast. If you have a newborn who still takes quite small volumes of milk, perhaps syringe, finger or cup feeding is a better option than a bottle. And if your baby is 4 months or older, they may already do quite well with a beaker or a sippy cup. If it is decided that bottle feeding will be your chosen method of supplementation, ask your healthcare provider about paced bottle feeding and how paced bottle feeding can help the transition between breast and bottle, and we chat about this in a separate video. Then you want to know how often you should give the supplementation and what kind of volumes should you be supplementing after every feed, or perhaps only 3 times a day, once a day. And so that would be important to discuss with your healthcare provider. Also, in the first 3 months of life, healthy newborn babies healthy breastfed babies will gain around 150 to 200 grams per week on average. This is according to the Irish Health Service Executive. Your healthcare provider may calculate volumes of supplementation based on the weight gain deficit, or they may do a so-called test weight, whereby they weigh your baby before and after a breastfeed, or assess volumes of pumping. Test weights and pumping volumes don't necessarily accurately reflect the milk intake at each feed and your milk production. It is only an estimate. They are estimates, but they can help with developing a feeding plan. A systemic review published in 2023 found that the average breast milk intake for healthy breastfed babies is 735 milliliters per day at 3 months and 126 milliliters per kilogram per day. The UK National Health Service guidance is that by the end of the first week of life up until 6 months of life, most formula-fed babies will need around 150 to 200 milliliters per kilogram per day. Formula-fed babies may consume higher volumes. The formula is differently metabolized. Formula-fed babies use the nutrients in formula less efficiently, so they may need more milk to meet their nutritional needs. To ensure that you're not jeopardizing your breastfeeding relationship when combination feeding is medically indicated, be sure to touch base with a healthcare provider knowledgeable in breastfeeding, ideally an international board certified lactation consultant.